All right, we're rolling. So, Mayor Carter,
Yes, sir.
you still got that new mayor smell to it.
The
huh?
new mayor. No, it's been quite the journey. I was just telling a group of folks this morning. The first time I walked in and saw my name on the door, it was a little jarring.
Right, right. So you're still getting used to that.
Definitely still getting used
Nice.
to all of it.
Nice. Well, I sent over a couple of questions over to Liz, and whether you've seen them or not, I'm sure these are basic questions with a little couple things, because this is for Hmong Today newspaper, so
Yes.
it's going to be a couple of questions that are geared towards your knowledge of the Hmong or whatnot in
Perfect.
Twin Cities. Let's start off. Both of your parents are or have had careers in the public realm, and so you've seen it all your life. But at what point did you realize that you wanted to be part of that public service, and also when did you realize I want to be mayor of St. Paul?
It's a bunch of wonderful questions. I don't think there was any moment where I thought I want to be a part of public service, and the reason is just because growing up in my parents' house, public service was just always a part of life. And I think I always knew that no matter what my career choices or what career route I'd take, that there would be an aspect of public service involved, whether that was just based on volunteerism. Actually, I think for the longest time I assumed it would be based on volunteerism. I got out of college and I had a number of experiences in college that made me really focused on just kind of focusing on having an impact on the world. And I actually went into the private sector after college and spent some time in there. And in our training, they talked a lot about how important it was to find a job that you're passionate about, and a job that you love, and a job doing work that is incredibly meaningful to me. And as I thought about what that work would be, public service clearly became part of that. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing community organizing, working on campaigns, and found myself working in this office when Mayor Coleman first got elected. And I fell in love with municipal government because of the work that we do, because of how urgent and intimate the local government is. And so I fell in love with municipal government. That's when I ran for city council. I think in any job you do, you look and say, here's what I would do differently if I, as a city council member, you look and say, here's what I might think about doing. Here's some ideas for the city. And as I saw just St. Paul continue to grow and prosper, and especially in the context of a national government and a national political environment that is pretty divisive. My goal was to stand forward and help lead St. Paul forward through all that.
When you were working in the mayor's office, did it ever occur to you that, you know what, I'm going to be sitting in this office one day, at this desk one day, and be mayor?
I can't say it ever did.
Never did, huh?
I can't say that. Oh, thanks. I can't say it ever did. There were when I decided to run for city council, a couple of people, Ann Mulholland, probably being the first one, looked and said, who was the deputy mayor here at the time, looked and said, one day you can have your picture up on that wall, which, I don't know, seemed really far away at the time.
That was pre-Obama though, right?
That was pre-Obama, yes. It was right before Obama ran for president.
Okay. Did Obama's becoming the president open up any floodlights for you, any ideas for you, like, wow, this is possible, this is something I can actually achieve?
Yes, Obama becoming the president really did, and as I saw how gifted he is at talking to people and helping to encourage people to find their own voice, that was something that was inspiring to me. And frankly, in a city like St. Paul, in a state like Minnesota, we've never seen a picture like mine. We've only seen a certain kind of pictures up on that wall of mayors, and to see this city and this whole state rally behind President Obama in the way that we did, both on the election days and between the election days, was meaningful for me.
Right. Speaking of the state, you were born at a time when the racial makeup here was basically all white. I mean, it was 98% white. Over the last 40 years, that's basically when you were born. You've seen the city and the state grow more and more diverse. Yet, Minnesota is still one of the state which has one of the highest achievement gaps, education gaps, both in school-wise, graduation rates, and also economic-wise in terms of per family income, earning capabilities and whatnot between whites and minorities. I mean, the gap is, I think only Wisconsin has a higher rate or has a higher gap. As mayor of St. Paul, do you think that you are in a position to improve these gaps? And what are some of the milestones that you want to set up for the first 4 years of your term?
Mm-hmm. I think we as a city are in a position to improve those gaps. Those gaps have been persistent and embarrassing, and we shouldn't accept them. I think the work of eliminating those gaps isn't just the work of a mayor by themselves. It's got to be the work of a whole community together. That's one of the reasons we started really focusing the city on education when I was on the city council. When we started that work, people would say education isn't your job. To me, they'd say that's not the city's job. That's why we have a school board. And my perspective was, well, one, if preparing our children for the future isn't our job, I don't know what is. But even more than that is, it seems to me like we were defining our job based more on repeating the processes that we had done, that we do every year, as opposed to meeting the new and unique challenges that families are bringing to us. And so, our goal is to work really closely with our schools, with our county, with our kind of human services organizations and nonprofits to ensure that families are connected to the resources that they need, to establish a public safety plan, public safety strategy that really centers around connecting people to opportunity and not around fostering the us versus them philosophy that seems to be kind of ruling the day in Washington, D.C., and around economic justice. And so, the work that I led when I was on the city council, much of it centered around establishing our Department of Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity, whose job it is to make sure that city contracts and city purchasing is fair and inclusive with regard to businesses owned by people of color, businesses owned by women, small businesses in our city as well. And so building on that work means identifying the barriers that are excluding, keeping so many of our children from the opportunity to take full advantage of their classrooms, that are excluding families and whole communities from the workforce and from our local economy, identifying and eliminating those barriers so that we as a city can really achieve our full potential.
Right. Obviously being a person of color, living that actual life. I mean, is there a certain insight, a certain urgency that you see in this work of finding equity?
I do think it's important to have a mayor who has lived the life that I've lived and the life of a person of color in this city. We're not the quaint Irish Catholic town that we might have been 50 years ago. We are a thriving, bustling, vibrant, diverse, multilingual, intercultural, international community. And the opportunity to walk into that existence, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Speaking of national policies and whatnot, immigration and border security are hot-button items at the federal level. What's your take on the ongoing debate, and will St. Paul be declared a sanctuary city at any time in the near future?
St. Paul is a sanctuary city. We are not I've been very clear, and I've worked with our police chief to say that our police department will never be tasked. We will never ask our police department to ask for, to verify, to even engage the topic of somebody's immigration status. That the role of our police department is really to serve, to protect and serve all of us, and that that's critical for all of us. You know, we don't just do that for our immigrant communities, but we're all less safe if anyone in our community feels uncomfortable calling the police or uncomfortable calling for an ambulance or a fire department when they need help. So our work has to be to make clear to everyone that this is a city for all of us.
Right. And if you did have a federal vote, I mean, would you vote on the side of the tenor that's going on? I mean, obviously with Trump. I mean, the first thing he said was he's going to close the border. If you were a senator or a U.S. congressman, I mean, would you vote for a border?
To close the border?
To have a wall?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
You know, our goal ought to be to connect people every chance we get. Our goal ought to be to bridge divides and to identify our commonalities and our shared humanity. It shouldn't be to build walls to keep people apart.
Right. Equity, innovation, and resilience are the core values of your administration. First of all, can you go into some detail about what those three powerful words mean to you? And also, why are these values important to you for the well-being of the city and for the future of the city?
We've talked about building a city that works for all of us. As a young person who grew up in our Rondo neighborhood and grew up hearing the stories of how old Rondo was uprooted to build the freeway, as someone who lived for years in Frogtown and in the North End, and hearing my neighbors pretty sure that when it snows, somebody else's streets get plowed first. As somebody who grew up as an African American man, who's had plenty of times in my life to feel like I was getting policed while somebody else was getting protected and served, building a city that works for everyone is an absolute critical goal. Those three values that you just described are three things that I think have to be exactly that, values. They can't be initiatives or projects. I believe if I can show you my equity project as though here's the rest of the work of the city and our equity work is kind of set off to the side, that means that we're not really serious about equity. It has to be a lens and a filter through which we see everything. So our equity work means building a city that works for everyone and knowing that we're providing top-rate public services for every person in every part of our city. Our innovation work means identifying the work that we do and the people that we serve, and every day focusing on how to do that work even better and how to serve those people even better. And resilience means, we're really focused on climate change and climate resilience, to say that, for a long time we've been talking about preventing climate change, but climate change is already here. We have to position our city to protect our city from the impacts of climate change, to protect our children from the impacts of climate change, and position St. Paul to thrive into the future. So for everything that we do, we have to do it well and constantly learn how to do it even better. We have to do it well for every single person in every part of our city, and we have to do it in a sustainable way that we can continue into the future.
These attributes were put on full display when you put your staff and cabinet together. Can you explain how you came up with the idea to assemble community hiring panels, and do you think those achieved your goals?
We spent the last year talking about the fact that we've never seen anyone who looks like me or like you on that wall of mayors here in City Hall. We talk about the fact that no person of color before now has served in this city's top office. And a lot of times we talk about that as though it's coincidental to the fact that St. Paul has, you mentioned them earlier, some of the worst disparities in the nation. When in fact, that's where the causal relationship is. I believe wholeheartedly that exclusive processes produce disparities. That when no one's in the room to say, hey, that freeway you just drew is over my neighborhood, that's how we produce disparities. And our goal with the administration is to be engaging, to be inclusive. I tell people all the time, I'm not asking you to send me to City Hall, I'm asking you to go there with me. And so that community hiring process engaged over 100 people from all over the city to be a part of vetting resumes, to be a part of interviewing candidates, to be a part of sending me recommendations on who to hire. And we would not have, I'm excited, I'm energized about the administration that we've put into place. We wouldn't have been able to do it without the expertise of that over 100 community members who came to help.
That was awesome, and that's part of the innovation that you speak of, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
That's probably never been done before in the state. I know. I mean, in the nation, is this something that?
We've never seen a public hiring process like that. There have been different kind of positions that at the state and even at the city, people have done that for like one position at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen an example of that being done on the scale and the level that we did it. But I think we will, because after we did it, we've heard a lot of interest from folks who said, "Tell me how that worked."
Right. It was very impressive when I saw it. I was like, what? What's going on here? This.
It was fun. It was
Right,
amazing. I mean,
right.
and you know, it speaks to the appetite that people have in this city to be a part of something, to put their hands on something and help move work forward. When we announced it, one of our local reporters asked me, and they said, you know, this requires a whole lot of time from a whole lot of people to just come and volunteer. Are you worried you won't be able to find enough people? I guaranteed that reporter that we wouldn't have enough seats in the room for all the people who would want to do that, and that's what happened. I mean, you know, I just mentioned that the over 100 people participated in that process, but we had over 300 people come forward to say they wanted to participate in that process. We had to turn people away because we didn't have enough seats.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you start a trend here.
I hope so.
And like you first mentioned right from the get-go, I mean, get rid of that thing that people do all the time. It doesn't work, and then find something that does work, right?
Right.
Couple last questions here. You've assembled a diverse staff in key leadership positions, including 5 who are of Hmong descent. Even in a city considered by many to be the capital of the Hmong world, this would be considered a surprising turn of events. Can you recall your first interaction with Hmong people and how your friendship with this community, with our community, have helped shape your outlook on race relations and the power of diversity?
Mm-hmm. I can't recall my first interaction with Hmong people just because I grew up in St. Paul, so I was around Hmong people as far back as I can remember.
Right.
And just from having classmates and, you know, walking up the street to the corner store and having teammates and, you know, just people in community, it's just been a fact of life for me. And one of the things that I've learned in life is we focus a lot on what makes us different than people who look different or live in a different place or vote differently or, you know, pray differently than us. And in almost all of those cases, you know, what makes us the same is far more, is far bigger, is far greater than what makes us different. And so, you know, having grown up in St. Paul, you know, the truth is, you know, our administration in many ways put itself together because I've gotten a chance to see people from so many different communities do amazing work on behalf of this city. And I've gotten to know professionals who speak different languages, who come from different communities, who practice different religions at home, do just perform incredibly well. So I'm honored by this team that we've put together. I'm honored by, you know, the Hmong members of our team and the African American members of our team and all of the members of our team. And, you know, as it turns out, and this is the biggest argument for equity for me, as it turns out, if you look citywide in a city like St. Paul, and if you just say we got to hire the best team of focused, passionate, capable people, and really do an open search, you'll find yourself with a pretty diverse crew of people.
Have you faced what kind of criticism have you faced on the hiring practice that you've of someone in this team?
I think the biggest criticism, you know, folks who wanted to, you know, who had, you know, critique of the public hiring process that we did and wanted to know, you know, who's making the decisions and, you know, are you going to just farm out the decisions to these panels and those types of things, which wasn't a real problem for us. I mean, you know, we've had, you know, lots of conversations with our panelists to say we're absolutely taking your advice. We need the advice, and we appreciate the feedback. And the mayor has to make the final decision where that's concerned. Someone asked me after we finished the hiring process. One of our kind of local leaders looked at me and said, "I think the problem is we're not used to seeing it done this way." And I responded, "Actually, that's not the problem. That's actually the promise we made. That's the whole point of things. We're planning. We're very intentionally focused on doing things in a new way. And I know that makes many of us uncomfortable. But given the state of the world right now, if we're comfortable, that probably isn't the right thing to do."
All right. Great responses. Hmong Village or Hmong Town?
Yes, both. Absolutely. Absolutely. Both have great fried bananas, and so I like to go to both.
Good. Well, it's a great pleasure again to interview you and to see you where you belong.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I can't say enough again of how impressed I've been of seeing how you've come together, brought things together. I mean, I know 4 out of the 5 people you assembled here in Hmong-wise. The only person I don't know is Lily Vang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know all the rest, but
I think she's going to be, we'll meet her in a second.
Okay.
She worked on our campaign.
oh, okay.
She knew who you were.
Oh, really?
So you guys
Probably just took
you're
probably
so
don't recognize
famous
her.
with me.
Right.
Track of all
Almost,
these
I'm trying to follow you. in
normal
this.
people all here.
The other thing I'll say is this. I think St. Paul is in a really good position. The whole economy, the global economy is shifting right now. And the cities that thrive into the next generation are going to be diverse, international, multilingual cities in the way that St. Paul is. I don't know that we always realize in the way that we operate as a city that we are this diverse, multinational, multilingual, international city, but we really are. And it's critical to me that we shift our focus on our diversity from seeing it as what I think of as really deficit-based to seeing ourselves as asset-based. And so, one of the things that our team has the ability to do is to see the promise and potential all over the city in places where we, I think, traditionally as a city have seen challenge and problems to solve.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that, to seeing that lens operationalized.
Right. Right now we're still in theory mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any actual results, like I mentioned before, milestones, something that you've seen like, wow, I've made an impact already?
Honestly, the biggest thing right now, and we're obviously still really early, the biggest thing right now that really humbles me and excites me for our future is the energy that exists all over the city. We said when at my inaugural, we said we're going to keep engaging people. We're going to ask people to come out and kind of work with us. We had a day of service in my inauguration week, and I don't know how many people came out. Probably over 100 people came out with us to help us paint a recreation center. And the fact that people are so excited to be a part of this vision that we've built, that they're so excited not to just kind of sit on the couch and watch us do the work, but to kind of put some elbow grease into it with us. That's the biggest thing that's exciting me right now.
Good. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, no problem.
If you have a question, go for it. But
What do you want to see? Like, what's the biggest thing you want to see after the 4 years you served as mayor?
I'd like to see us rethink our self-identity as a city. Like I was just saying earlier, we've looked at our diversity as a challenge, as a problem. We've looked at the kids who speak multiple languages in our schools as a problem. We have to teach them English as a second language. We've looked at a lot of the things that make St. Paul precious and special as a problem to be solved in our city. I'd love to see us sort of shift how we think of our city and say, you know what, our diversity is what gives us access to the global economy. That, you know, the multilingualism of our families, the 120 different languages that St. Paul Public School students speak at home, gives us the opportunity to compete for all the businesses in the world who are looking to tap into a multilingual workforce. And so there's that kind of spiritual shift in St. Paul that I'd love to see us kind of do. You know, we end up stuck in this space where, you know, our equity work hits a wall when it gets pitted against our economic growth work, you know, our work to expand the pie here in St. Paul. My belief is if we invest in all of our communities, and particularly our communities of color that we haven't invested in, that will expand the pie for all of us. Mm-hmm. Very specifically, we're working to raise the minimum wage right now. We're working to continue to invest in the trust that has to exist between our police officers and our community members. And probably the initiative that I'm most excited to work on is an initiative to start every child born in St. Paul with $50 put away for in college savings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. You know, research shows that low and moderate income children who have between $1 and $500 put away for college are 3 times more likely to go to college, and when they go, 4 times more likely to graduate. And so that's a proposal that, you know, if you multiply $50 by the 5,000 kids born in St. Paul every year, it's a pretty relatively inexpensive and cost-effective proposal that I'll argue could be transformative.
Well, might take more than $50, but
Well, so paying for college will absolutely take more than $50, right? What the $50 does is it plants a seed about college in children's minds, and it lets our children know we believe in them enough to invest in them. And like I said, you know, the research shows that even with $50, you know, our kids are astronomically more likely to go to college. And the reason is because it's not really the money, it's the mindset. You know, that we're planting a college-going mindset in our children's, into our children and into our families. And that's something that's worthless. I mean, that's, what's the word? Worthwhile to do. Priceless. That's the word I was looking for. Not worthless, priceless.
priceless.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait to see all these things come into fruition and the seeds start growing trees and things start looking good.
I'm really looking forward to it.
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
You got pictures you needed?
Yeah, let's take
Okay.
like maybe a